Most people work hard all their lives, yet arrive at retirement broke, embarrassed, and still wishing for more. I don't want that for you. The truth is, I made mistakes with money early on, and it cost me dearly. But I also discovered 7 lessons that turned everything around, and if you learn them now, you won't pay the same price I did. In the next 80 minutes, I'm going to hand you 7 money lessons that can spare you years of frustration, wasted effort, and financial embarrassment. These lessons are not theory, they come from hard experience and from a philosophy that has helped millions. If you've ever felt stuck with money, working hard but not moving forward, these truths will show you the way out. And if you already have some success, they will help you multiply and protect it. Think of it this way. By the end of this video, you'll hold the blueprint I wish someone had handed me years earlier. Let me ask you, have you ever worked an entire month only to see the check disappear before you could even enjoy it? Or look back at 5 years of effort and realized you were no closer to freedom? I've been there. And I can tell you it's not because you're not working hard enough. It's because no one ever taught you the real rules of money. We're taught how to earn a living, but not how to design a life. That's why these 7 lessons are so valuable. They close the gap between what you were taught and what you actually need to know to be free. Here's what we're going to cover. I'll walk you through 7 money lessons that completely reshaped my future. We'll talk about why your personal philosophy matters more than your paycheck. We'll uncover the law of sowing and reaping as it applies to your finances. We'll see why discipline weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons, and how that truth affects your bank account. We'll also talk about associations, daily habits, and the bridge between making a living and making a fortune. Some of these lessons may surprise you because they run counter to what most people believe about money. But I promise you this, if you stay with me to the end, you'll never look at money or your future the same way again. Now, let me share something most people never stop to think about. We've all been taught to chase money, work harder, get more hours, earn a little more. But here's the surprise, money doesn't come to those who simply work hard. If that were true, every person working 2 jobs would already be wealthy. That's not how it works. The truth is, your income is not determined by the hours you put in. Your income is determined by the value you bring to the marketplace. Think about that for a moment. You don't get paid for the hour. You get paid for the value you bring to the hour. That's the big difference. One person makes $10 an hour. Another person makes $100 an hour. Same 60 minutes. The difference is not time. The difference is the value. And here's where most people miss it. They spend their lives trying to increase their hours instead of increasing their value. That's why they stay trapped. But here's the good news. You can change this. Because value is not fixed. Value can be learned, developed, expanded. I remember the day I discovered this truth. I was 25 years old, standing in my doorway, looking at a little Girl Scout selling cookies. She had the best presentation I'd ever heard. Several flavors, a special deal, only $2 a box. And I wanted to buy. Oh, how I wanted to buy. But I couldn't. Not because I didn't like cookies, but because I didn't have $2 in my pocket. Imagine the shame of telling a little girl I already had all the cookies I needed when the truth was I was broke. That moment hit me like a hammer. I realized the problem wasn't the government. It wasn't the taxes. It wasn't my job. The problem was me. I didn't have a money problem. I had a value problem. I hadn't yet learned how to bring enough value to the marketplace. And that's when my mentor told me something that turned my whole life around. He said, Jim, if you want things to change for you, you have to change. If you want things to get better, you have to get better. Don't wish for less problems. Wish for more skills. Don't wish for less challenge. Wish for more wisdom. That was the beginning of everything for me. So let me make this simple and practical. If you change yourself, your income will follow. If you improve your philosophy, your results will improve. The marketplace is like a mirror. It reflects back to you the value you've created. You can't trick it. You can't cheat it, but you can improve it. Think of it like setting the sail on a boat. The same winds blow on us, all economic winds, political winds, social winds. What makes the difference in where you arrive is not the wind. It's the set of the sail. If your sail is set wrong, no amount of complaining about the wind will get you where you want to go. But if you adjust your sail, your thinking, your philosophy, you can go anywhere. And that's the great news. You can reset your sail today. You can begin to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. You can start developing the skills, the habits, the mindset that make you more valuable. Because once you become more, you'll attract more. It's not magic. It's not luck. It's simply the way life works. Now, here's something else I learned early on, and it was another turning point for me. Most people think failure happens overnight. They think success comes from one big lucky break or failure from one terrible mistake. But life doesn't work like that. Failure is not a single cataclysmic event. Success is not one lucky strike. Both are the result of small steps, repeated day after day. That's the way it really works. Failure, my mentor told me, is nothing more than a few errors in judgment repeated every day. Success, on the other hand, is a few simple disciplines practiced every day. And when you understand that truth, you suddenly realize that the small things matter. The little decisions you make when nobody is watching, the small habits you practice in private, the choices that seem insignificant at the time, those are the seeds that grow into your harvest later. Let me paint the picture. Imagine two people. Both wake up every morning with the same 24 hours, the same opportunities, the same winds of life blowing across their sails. One says, I think I'll sleep in. I'll skip reading today. I'll put off that phone call, that letter, that meeting. After all, what does it matter? Missing one day can't hurt. And they're right. Missing one day doesn't hurt. But missing one day turns into two. And two turns into a week. And a week turns into a year. And pretty soon, they've built a whole life out of excuses and neglect. They look up one day and wonder why their bank account is empty, their health is broken, and their dreams are still on the shelf. But it didn't happen overnight. It was the small errors compounded daily. Now take the second person. They wake up the same as the first, tired, tempted, maybe not even in the mood. But they say, I'll do it anyway. I'll read a few pages. I'll make that call. I'll put a little money aside. I'll practice that skill. And the same truth applies. One day doesn't make the difference. Reading 10 pages today won't change your fortune. Putting $10 aside won't make you rich. Practicing the piano for 30 minutes won't make you a master. But do it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. And pretty soon you've stacked discipline on discipline. And over time, the harvest comes in. You look up one day and your account is growing, your skills are sharp, your confidence is strong, and people are calling you lucky. But it wasn't luck. It was simple disciplines. Compounded. I'll never forget the lesson my mentor gave me on this. He said, Jim, take out a piece of paper. Write down all your excuses. Taxes are too high. The government is unfair. The boss doesn't appreciate me. The breaks just don't come my way. And I had a long list. I thought I had some good ones too. He said, now, Jim, rip that list to shreds, tear it up, throw it away. And now, get another piece of paper. Write down one word at the top. I said, what word? He said, me. That's the word. He said, Jim, if you'll start working on what's inside that word, everything else will begin to change. Don't curse the government. Don't curse the company. Don't curse the economy. Start working on yourself. That one idea began to dismantle my excuses because I realized my philosophy was the real problem, not my circumstances. And here's the part that might sting a little, but it's true. Most people spend major time on minor things. They waste hours scrolling, gossiping, worrying about things outside of their control, while neglecting the disciplines that would change their life. And the reason they do it is because, at the time, it doesn't seem to matter. If you don't read the book tonight, the sky won't fall. If you don't start exercising today, you won't keel over tomorrow. If you eat the extra cookie, if you skip the journal entry, if you blow the money on a whim, it doesn't seem to matter. But here's the danger. Those little errors don't shout out their consequences. They whisper, they hide, they accumulate in silence. And one day, they show up with the bill. And the same is true of success. At first, it doesn't seem to matter. Read the book tonight, no big reward. Save the $5, no fireworks. Skip the movie and work on your project nobody applauds. But give it time, and the law of accumulation works in your favor. Little disciplines stack up, they create momentum, they build character. They change your philosophy, and that philosophy changes your income, your relationships, your future. That's the magic of compounded discipline. So let me challenge you here. Don't despise the day of small beginnings. Don't overlook the little things. Your habits are either pulling you toward fortune or pushing you toward regret. There is no neutral ground. Every day is a vote for your future. Every action is a seed in the ground. The question is, what are you planting? Because one day, when you stand in front of your harvest, you won't be able to blame the soil or the sun or the rain. The harvest is simply the result of the seeds you chose to sow and the seeds you chose to neglect. Here's something most people never discover until it's far too late. Money by itself has no meaning, no direction, no purpose. You can work your fingers to the bone. You can stack up a few paychecks. You can hustle from morning till night. But if that money doesn't have a clear destination, it will slip right through your fingers like water through a sieve. And that's why you see so many people who earn well but live poor. People who bring in a steady income but stay trapped in a cycle of debt and frustration. It's not because they lack intelligence. It's not even because they lack opportunity. It's because they never took the time to design a plan, to set goals, to give their money meaning. Without goals, money becomes a tyrant. It controls you instead of you controlling it. With goals, money becomes a servant, a tool, a resource that helps you build the life you've imagined. I'll never forget the day my mentor, Earl Schoaf, asked me a simple question that cut me to the core. We were sitting together and he said, "Jim, let me see your list of goals." I looked at him, embarrassed, and said, "I don't have a list." He said, "Then I can guess your bank balance within a few $100s." And to my shock, he guessed it exactly. How could he do that? Because goals and money are directly linked. If you don't have a list of where you want to go, you can be sure your money will reflect it. Empty pockets, late bills, frustration. But if you do have a clear set of goals, if you know exactly what you want, why you want it, and when you want it, then suddenly the money you earn has a place to go. It has a job to do. It has a reason to exist. Now think about this. Most people spend their lives making a living, but never designing a life. They go to work, come home, pay the bills, repeat the cycle, and then wonder why nothing ever changes. But goals are like magnets. They pull you forward. They attract resources. They demand discipline. They awaken creativity. With goals, you stop asking, "What's the point?" and start saying, "This is the point." Without goals, a paycheck is just numbers on a piece of paper. With goals, that paycheck becomes bricks in the foundation of your dream. And here's why this matters so much. If you don't give your money an assignment, life will give it one for you. Emergencies, distractions, temptations. Suddenly, the dollars you thought you controlled are gone. That's why people end up saying, "I don't know where it all went." But if you do give your money an assignment, save this much, invest this much, put this toward the house, this toward education, and this toward contribution, then every dollar begins to march in the direction of your vision. And let me tell you, that's when life changes. That's when money starts working for you instead of you always working for it. Imagine a builder setting out to construct a beautiful house. He has the wood, the bricks, the tools, and the labor. But he has no blueprint. What happens? Chaos, materials wasted, effort scattered, and in the end, nothing resembling a house. That's how most people live with money. They have the income, the hours, the tools, the energy, but no plan, no goals. So the result is a pile of wasted potential. But give that same builder a blueprint, clear instructions, a step-by-step design, and suddenly every board, every nail, every hour of work is moving toward a masterpiece. That's the power of goals. So let me ask you, what are your goals? Not just vague hopes or passing wishes, but written, clear, specific goals that tell your money where to go. Because if you don't have them, you'll end up working hard your whole life and still coming up short. But if you do have them, even modest income can become great wealth. Because it is directed wealth. And remember this, the stronger the reason behind your goals, the stronger the pull. A weak reason produces weak results. A strong reason produces strong results. If you want to change your financial future, don't start with your job. Start with your goals. Give your money meaning. Now let me give you a thought that might surprise you. The true purpose of goals isn't the car, the house, the bank account, or the fancy vacation. Those are nice, and they certainly make life more enjoyable, but they're not the real prize. The real purpose of goals is the person you must become in order to achieve them. That's the magic. You see, when I first started out, I thought goals were about getting. I thought they were about piling up stuff. But my mentor helped me see that the greatest value of a goal is not what you get, it's what you become. And once that idea really sank in, it changed everything about how I approached success. Think of it this way. If someone hands you $1 million, but you haven't developed the philosophy, the character, the discipline, and the skills of a millionaire, chances are you'll lose it. And you've seen this happen. Lottery winners, athletes, celebrities who make millions. And then, a few years later, they're broke, embarrassed, and wondering what went wrong. What went wrong is simple. They had the money, but they didn't have the growth. They got the reward without the transformation. But if you earn your first million the right way, by setting goals, by practicing discipline, by developing wisdom, you'll have not only the money, but the skills and mindset to build it again if you lose it. That's why a true millionaire who goes broke often rebuilds. Because the money isn't the treasure. The treasure is the person they became on the way to earning it. Let me tell you a story that illustrates this so well. Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest men of his era, wrote down his life plan when he was still a young man. On that plan, he wrote, "The first half of my life will be spent earning money, and the second half of my life will be spent giving it all away." And that's exactly what he did. He built steel empires, amassed an enormous fortune, and then gave it away, built libraries, funded schools, changed communities. Now, the money he gave was impressive, but the real story is the man he became in the process. Carnegie didn't just become rich, he became generous. He didn't just gain fortune, he gained vision. The money was a byproduct of the person he was becoming, and that's what goals are designed to do. And here's another way to think of it. Imagine a kite rising against the wind. The resistance, the pull, the struggle, that's what makes it soar. Your goals are like that wind. They create the resistance you need to rise higher. If your goals are small, if they don't stretch you, then you won't grow much. But if your goals are large, if they push you, if they scare you a little and excite you a lot, then you're forced to grow. You have to develop new skills, adopt new habits, expand your vision. You can't stay the same and reach them. That's why goals matter. They're not just about what's at the end of the road. They're about who you must become along the way. So let me challenge you, don't just set goals for things. Set goals for growth. Don't just ask, what do I want? Ask, who do I want to become? Because at the end of the day, that's the true wealth. The car may break down, the house may wear out, the money may be spent, but the person you become is yours forever. And that's the beauty of goals, they change you. And once you change, everything around you changes too. Here's a truth as old as the earth itself, and yet so many people still miss it. Life runs on laws, just like nature runs on laws. And one of the most powerful is this: you always reap what you sow, always. No exceptions. If you plant corn in the spring, you don't get pumpkins in the fall. If you plant wheat, you don't get apples. The law is absolute. And here's where it gets interesting. This law doesn't only govern crops in the field, it governs every area of your life. It governs your money, your relationships, your health, your reputation, your future. If you plant the seeds of discipline, you'll reap a harvest of success. If you plant the seeds of neglect, you'll reap a harvest of regret. That's not philosophy. That's not opinion. That's the way life works. And you can see it everywhere. The person who plants nothing reaps nothing. They put no seeds in the ground, no effort, no discipline, no savings, no study. And then when harvest season comes, they stand in the field with empty hands. They say, "Where's my crop? Where's my success? Where's my fortune?" But the soil can only return what was planted, and the soil doesn't play favorites. It doesn't care whether you plant good seed or bad seed. It doesn't care whether you plant wheat or weeds. It just returns whatever was sown. That's why a person who plants little only reaps little, while the one who plants generously reaps generously. And here's the part that cuts deep. Some people go through life believing they can cheat this law. They think they can talk their way into a harvest. They think they can wish their way into success. But wishing doesn't sow seed. Complaining doesn't sow seed. Talking doesn't sow seed. Only planting does. The farmer knows this. If he wants a harvest in the fall, he must put seed in the ground in the spring. No seed, no crop. Too little seed, too little crop. Abundant seed, abundant crop. The law is exact. I remember telling a group once that you can't reap kindness if you sow bitterness. You can't reap trust if you sow dishonesty. You can't reap wealth if you sow laziness. What you put in is what comes out. And here's what makes the law so powerful: it works in silence. You don't see the harvest the day after you plant. The ground looks the same. It looks like nothing is happening. But the law is at work beneath the soil, unseen. And months later, the harvest arrives. That's why this law is both thrilling and terrifying. Thrilling if you've been planting the right seeds, because you know your harvest is guaranteed. Terrifying if you've been planting neglect, because that harvest is guaranteed too. So here's the question you and I have to ask ourselves every day. What am I sowing? Because whether you realize it or not, you're always planting. Every choice, every action, every habit is a seed. The books you read or don't read, the time you use or waste, the people you listen to, the words you speak, all seeds. And one day, you'll stand in the middle of your harvest, looking around at what's grown. And in that moment, you won't be able to say, I didn't know. Because deep down, we all know the law. You reap what you sow. Now, let me tell you the part that most people overlook, and it's why so many quit before the harvest ever comes in. It's not just that you reap what you sow. It's that you reap later than you sow. And that's where the test lies. That's where character is measured. Because when you first put the seed in the ground, it looks like nothing is happening. You water it, you wait, you come back tomorrow, and the soil looks the same. No sprout, no stalk, no fruit. And if you're impatient, if you're looking for instant results, you'll get discouraged. You'll say, see, I knew it wouldn't work. And you walk away. But what you don't see is that beneath the soil, hidden from your eyes, roots are forming, life is stirring, the law is working. And if you'll just keep tending, if you'll just keep sowing, if you'll just keep believing, in time, the harvest shows up. Always later, never immediately. This is why so many people sabotage themselves financially, physically, even spiritually. They want the harvest today, without the planting, without the waiting, without the patience. They want the body without the workouts. They want the wealth without the discipline. They want the wisdom without the study. And when it doesn't happen overnight, they quit. They start and stop, and then wonder why nothing changes. But life was never designed to work that way. It was designed so that effort today produces results tomorrow, not in the moment. The farmer understands this. He plants in the spring, tends through the summer, and harvests in the fall. He doesn't dig up the field every morning to check if the seed is still there. He trusts the law. He knows the delay is built into the process. And here's the real danger. Neglect works by the same law. You don't feel the results of neglect immediately. Skip saving today, and your bank account looks the same tomorrow. Skip reading tonight, and you wake up the same tomorrow. Eat poorly for a week, and nothing drastic happens yet. That's why it feels harmless. But the law is still working. The consequences are simply delayed, and when they arrive in full measure. A man doesn't go bankrupt from one foolish purchase. He goes bankrupt from years of neglect that finally demand a bill. A woman doesn't lose her health from one bad meal. She loses it from years of ignoring discipline, and the reckoning comes later. The law always keeps the books balanced. So here's what I learned. Patience is not passive. Patience is active faith in the law. It's trusting that if you keep planting the right seeds, if you keep watering them with discipline, if you keep tending them with consistency, then the harvest is guaranteed. Not instant, not tomorrow, but guaranteed. That's why we have to learn the discipline of time. Wealth takes time. Growth takes time. Success takes time. But so does failure. And both are moving toward you right now, based on the seeds you're sowing today. So don't be deceived by the silence between planting and harvest. Don't mistake the quiet for inactivity. The soil is always at work. The law is always turning your seeds into a crop, for good or for bad. The question is, will the harvest that shows up later be one you celebrate or one you regret? Because one day, later always comes. Here's something I discovered that shook me to my core, and maybe it will shake you too. All through school, we're taught that education is the key. And it is only not in the way most people think. I learned that formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. And I didn't learn that from a textbook. I learned it from bitter experience. You see, I quit school young, believing I was smart enough to land a job and make my way. And sure enough, I got a job. I worked hard. I did the best I knew. But by 25 years old, I was broke, behind on my promises, and embarrassed to admit I couldn't even buy a $2 box of Girl Scout cookies. That's when it hit me. All my hard work hadn't solved the problem. My boss couldn't pay me enough. My job couldn't carry me far enough. And it wasn't because the world was unfair. It was because I hadn't yet learned how to make myself valuable enough. See, the marketplace doesn't pay you for effort. It pays you for value. That's the great economic lesson. 10 people can work just as hard, sweat just as much, grind just as many hours, and yet earn vastly different incomes. Why? Because the marketplace rewards value, not sweat. And here's where formal education often falls short. It can teach you how to make a living, but it rarely teaches you how to make a life. It teaches you history and math and literature, all useful. But it doesn't teach you how to design a vision, how to discipline your habits, how to attract opportunity, how to invest and multiply your resources. Nobody hands you that manual. That's something you have to go and learn on your own. That's what I call self-education. I remember the hunger I felt when my mentor, Earl Schoaf, opened up my eyes to this truth. He said, "Jim, if you want to be wealthy, study wealth. If you want to be healthy, study health. If you want to be happy, study happiness." And I thought to myself, why didn't anyone tell me this before? Why didn't school hand me a reading list on how to live well? But I decided from that day forward, I'd become a student, not of just one subject, but of life itself. I started reading books, listening to audios, taking notes, filling journals, and practicing what I learned. And do you know what happened? Slowly but surely, my income began to reflect my new value. Not because the world changed, but because I changed. And that's the key. You can complain about the company, you can curse the government, you can wish the economy were better, or you can go to work on yourself. Learn the skills that make you valuable. Learn the disciplines that make you respected. Learn the wisdom that makes you attractive. Because money doesn't chase effort, it chases value. And value comes from self-education. Every book you pick up, every seminar you attend, every lesson you practice it, all stacks up. And one day, the marketplace says, we'll pay you more because you've become more. That's why I tell people, invest in your own growth. Don't leave it to chance. Don't stop learning just because you finished school. That diploma may help you earn a living, but your self-education will build your fortune. And if you're willing to start, even small, the results will compound in ways you can hardly imagine. Now, once I understood that formal education could only take me so far, and that self-education was the bridge to fortune, the next question was simple but sobering. How do I actually make myself more valuable? Because that's the key, isn't it? If the marketplace pays for value, then the real skill in life is not just learning how to clock in and clock out, but learning how to expand your value and continually become more than you were yesterday. And let me tell you, when that thought grabbed me, I could hardly sleep at night. I realized I was walking around like a man carrying a golden key in his pocket without knowing it. All I had to do was start using it, sharpening it, shaping it, until that key unlocked doors that had been closed to me for years. Think about it. Two people may sit side by side at the same company. One earns $10 an hour, the other earns 50, maybe even 100. Same desks, same building, same clock on the wall. The difference isn't the building. It isn't the economy. It isn't even luck. The difference is that one has developed skills, the other hasn't. One has invested in becoming more valuable, while the other has settled for staying the same. And the beauty is this: you don't have to settle. You can start right where you are and begin building more value into yourself every single day. Learn how to communicate better. Learn how to sell, because life is sales. Learn how to lead, because leadership pays. Learn how to adapt, because the world is always changing. Every new skill you add makes you more flexible, more secure, and more attractive in the marketplace. I remember being astonished when I discovered how much my mentors read. I thought I was doing well if I read a book or two a year. They were consuming a book a week, sometimes more. And not just novels, they were devouring biographies, business books, philosophy, psychology, anything that could sharpen their mind and widen their vision. And I thought to myself, no wonder they're wealthy. No wonder they're influential. They've been feeding their minds while most of us have been coasting. That realization stung, but it also inspired me. I decided to catch up. I built a library. I filled notebooks. I studied ideas until they became habits. And those habits became part of who I was. And here's the payoff. When you increase your value, the world has no choice but to pay you more. It can't ignore you. The company may change, the economy may shift, industries may rise and fall, but if you've built yourself into someone of value, you carry that wherever you go. It's like upgrading your tools. A dull blade can't cut no matter how hard you swing it, but a sharp blade slices with ease. If you upgrade your tools, your mind, your skills, your habits, you can accomplish in an hour what once took you a day. That's how fortunes are built, not just by harder work, but by better tools and better value. So here's my challenge to you. Start today. Don't wait for the perfect time. Pick up a book, take a class, find a mentor, practice a skill, expand your mind. Even if it's small, do it. Because every step you take in increasing your value moves you closer to the life you want. And the day will come when people look at you and say, "How did you become so successful?" And you'll smile and say, "I worked harder on myself than I did on my job. I increased my value." That's the real secret. Now here's a truth that every one of us eventually faces, whether we want to or not. Life is going to hand you pain. There's no escaping it. But here's the choice. You can choose the pain of discipline now, or you can suffer the pain of regret later. And make no mistake about it. One weighs ounces, the other weighs tons. Discipline weighs ounces. You can carry it. You can bear it. You can build strength under it. Regret, though, regret will crush you. Regret will pile up like a mountain on your back and leave you wondering why you wasted so much of your time, your talent, your opportunity. And the saddest part is, regret always shows up too late to do anything about it. I remember the day this became more than just words for me. I was 25, standing in my doorway, lying to a little Girl Scout because I didn't have $2 in my pocket. Can you imagine the embarrassment? A grown man, working every day, and I couldn't afford a box of cookies. I told her we already had all the cookies we could eat, but the truth was we had none. And as I shut that door, I leaned against it and said to myself, "Never again. I will not live like this. I will not feel this shame again." That was the day regret burned me. That was the day I realized that neglect had cost me more than money. It had cost me self-respect. And in that moment, I knew, from here on, I'd rather carry the weight of discipline every day than face the crushing blow of regret again. And maybe you've felt that same sting. Maybe it's looking back at years where you know you could have saved, but didn't. Or moments when you could have studied, but chose comfort instead. Or times when you could have spoken up, but stayed silent. Regret always whispers the same cruel words. You could have, but you didn't. And you can't go back and rewrite it. That's why I say discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. It may sting in the moment. You may have to wake up earlier, stay up later, resist the easy option. But every time you practice it, you gain something no one can take from you. Pride, strength, character. Now here's the good news. Discipline doesn't just keep you out of regret, it pays you back in confidence. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you stand a little taller. Every time you resist the easy road and take the hard one, you build muscle in your character. And after a while, you stop seeing discipline as pain at all. You start seeing it as power. And isn't that the truth? The same wind blows on us all the winds of opportunity, the winds of difficulty. But it's the set of the sail, your discipline, that determines where you end up. You can't control the wind, but you can control the sail. So here's the decision each of us has to make. Will I carry the light weight of discipline now, or will I face the crushing weight of regret later? Will I do the small things each day that keep me on track, or will I let them slide until the bill comes due? Because one way or another, life is going to collect payment. And I'd rather pay a little each day in discipline than pay all at once in regret. That's the trade. And once you see it clearly, the choice becomes simple. Carry the ounces now, so you never have to carry the tons later. Now, once you understand that discipline is lighter than regret, the next question becomes, where do I apply it? How do I put discipline to work in my daily life so that it actually changes my future? And here's the answer that changed everything for me. Success isn't built on brilliance. It isn't built on genius. It isn't even built on extraordinary luck. Success is built on a handful of small disciplines, practiced every single day until they compound into a fortune. That's the secret. Not 100 things, Not 1,000 things, a few simple things done consistently. My mentor used to say, Jim, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day, and failure is nothing more than a few errors in judgment repeated every day. That's it. It's the daily disciplines or the daily errors that make the difference. And at first, neither one seems to matter. Skip the book today, skip the workout, skip the savings, and the sky doesn't fall. Nothing dramatic happens. That's why it's easy to think it doesn't matter. But skip it long enough, and the bill shows up in the form of regret. On the other hand, pick up the book, make the call, set aside the savings, take the walk. And again, nothing dramatic happens at first, but do it long enough. And suddenly, you're a different person, living a different life. Let me give you an analogy. Brushing your teeth is simple. It takes 2 minutes. Skip it today, and nothing terrible happens. Your teeth don't fall out overnight. But skip it for a week, a month, a year, and the neglect shows up. The same is true with money, health, relationships, and personal growth. The things that don't seem to matter in the moment matter the most in the long run. The things that are easy to do are just as easy not to do. And that's the subtlety of discipline. It hides its value until time passes, and then it reveals itself in full measure. I remember when I first started practicing small disciplines. I was broke, embarrassed, and ready for change. My mentor said, start reading a few pages every day. Start putting a little money aside, even if it's just a few dollars. Start keeping a journal. Start practicing gratitude. None of it felt earth-shaking. None of it felt like it would change my life. But I trusted the process, and day after day I kept at it. And do you know what happened? Weeks turned into months. Months turned into years. And those small disciplines built a new life. I gained ideas that turned into opportunities. I saved money that turned into investments. I wrote insights that turned into speeches. And all of it came from those simple disciplines that anyone could do, but most don't. That's why I tell people, don't look for the extraordinary. Look for the ordinary you can do every day. And do it consistently. Because ordinary disciplines done consistently produce extraordinary results. That's the formula. Not dramatic action once in a while, but small action every day. And when you look back after a few years, you'll realize the life you're living is built entirely on the foundation of those disciplines. So my challenge to you is simple. Pick a few. Reading, journaling, saving, exercising, practicing, gratitude, whatever applies to the vision you want. Don't overwhelm yourself with 50. Pick a few and do them every day. Guard them like treasure, because those little disciplines, stacked one on top of the other, become the bricks of your fortune. And I promise you, the day will come when you look at your life and say, how did I get here? And the answer will be one small discipline at a time. Now let me share with you one of the simplest but most sobering truths I ever learned. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That idea struck me like a thunderbolt when I first heard it, because I realized almost instantly that my life at 25 was a perfect reflection of the people I was hanging around with. My health looked like theirs. My bank account looked like theirs. My attitude sounded like theirs. And my excuses matched theirs word for word. It's a law of life. Your environment shapes you. It's stronger than your intentions, stronger than your willpower, stronger than all your good plans if you don't take it seriously. You may think you can rise above the pull of the crowd, but the truth is, no one lives in isolation. We absorb the language, the habits, the philosophy of the people closest to us. And without realizing it, we end up walking their road and arriving at their destination. Think about it. If you spend time every day with people who complain, you'll soon find yourself complaining. If you surround yourself with people who waste time, you'll soon find yourself wasting time. If you're around people who spend every dollar they make, you'll find your pockets empty too. On the other hand, if you spend time with people who read, who invest, who discipline themselves, who think big, who plan carefully, who dream with action behind it before long, their habits become your habits, their mindset becomes your mindset, and their results begin to rub off on you. That's the power of association. And I remember my mentor, Earl Schoaf, warning me about this in very direct language. He said, Jim, don't join an easy crowd because you won't grow. Go where the expectations are high, where the pressure is strong. Go where you have to stretch just to keep up. And I thought about the people I was with most of the time, and I realized they weren't lifting me. They were dragging me. They weren't challenging me. They were making it comfortable for me to stay average. And that day I made a decision. I would start choosing my associations carefully, not out of arrogance, not because I thought I was better, but because I finally understood that my future depended on it. The truth is, it only takes one rotten apple to spoil the whole barrel. If you stay in the barrel long enough, you don't lift the apple up, it pulls you down. That's how negative associations work. They don't push you forward. They drag you backward, slowly, quietly, almost without you noticing, until it's too late. That's why I say environment is stronger than willpower. You can have the best intentions, but if you're breathing the air of mediocrity every day, it will infect you. But if you put yourself in the presence of people who expect more of themselves, who expect more of you, then your own standards will rise to match theirs. So let me ask you a tough but important question. Who are your five? Who do you spend the most time with? Whose conversations are shaping your mind? Whose habits are rubbing off on you? Whose results are you walking toward? Because like it or not, you are the average of them. And if you don't like where they're headed, you need to change the crowd. That decision alone could change everything about your life. Now let me give you another lesson about associations that changed my whole direction. It's not enough to just be careful who you spend your time with. You must also be careful who you listen to. There's a world of difference between opinions and counsel. And if you don't learn to separate the two, you'll spend your life following the wrong advice. See, opinions are cheap. Everybody has them. They flow freely in every direction. People with no results, no track record, no fruit on the tree are usually the first to tell you what you should do. You want to lose weight? Everybody has an opinion. You want to start a business? Everybody has an opinion. You want to invest your money? Everybody has an opinion. But the truth is, opinions are often worth exactly what you pay for them, nothing. Counsel, on the other hand, is different. Counsel comes from someone who has been there, who has walked the road, who has proof in their own life that what they're telling you works. That's the difference. I remember Earl Schoaf drilling this into me. He said, Jim, don't take advice from people who are broke about money. Don't take advice from someone in poor health about how to be healthy. Don't take advice from someone who's given up on life about how to succeed in it. Go find people with results. Study their philosophy. Ask them questions. Listen carefully. And that was a turning point, because up until then, I was taking my cues from the wrong crowd. I was letting the broke tell me how to manage money, the complainers tell me how the world worked, the lazy tell me what was fair, and no wonder my life looked like theirs. But when I started seeking out real counsel, mentors, books, recordings, successful people who lived what they taught, suddenly my thinking began to shift, my habits began to change, and my results followed. And isn't it true? You can steer a ship with the wrong compass, and no matter how hard you row, you'll never arrive at the right harbor. That's what following opinions will do: steer you in circles, keep you busy, but never deliver you where you want to go. But with wise counsel, with the right compass in your hand, even if the winds blow and the storms rage, you'll still end up at the right destination. The compass doesn't lie. And wise counsel doesn't lie either. It may not always be easy to hear. It may challenge you. It may confront you, but it won't lie to you. It will point you where you need to go. So here's the question you've got to ask yourself. Am I collecting opinions, or am I seeking counsel? Am I letting the noise of the crowd shape my decisions, or am I deliberately going to those with fruit on the tree and saying, teach me what you know? Because one will keep you spinning your wheels, and the other will change your life. And if you'll make it your habit to ignore the cheap chatter of opinions and lean into the voice of wise counsel, your future will be brighter, stronger, and far more secure. Now let me share with you one of the most liberating truths I ever learned about money. Money is important, of course it is, but it was never meant to be your master. Money was meant to be your servant, your tool, something you direct, something you command, something you put to work in building the kind of life you've chosen. And here's where so many people go wrong. They let money become the master. They chase it, they bow to it, they compromise for it, they stress over it, they even destroy relationships over it. And in the end, money rules them. But when money is the master, it never satisfies. It always demands more. It always keeps you running. It always leaves you empty. The goal is not to be enslaved by money. The goal is to make money serve your highest values. Think of it like a sharp knife. In the hands of a skilled cook, that knife prepares a beautiful meal, nourishes a family, creates joy around a table. In the wrong hands, it can wound, it can destroy. The knife itself is neutral. It has no morality, no agenda. Its impact depends entirely on who's holding it and how they choose to use it. Money is exactly the same. In one set of hands, it builds schools, funds, libraries, feeds the hungry, creates jobs, lifts communities. In another set of hands, it fuels greed, corruption, indulgence, and ruin. The money itself doesn't care. It simply magnifies what you already are. If you're generous, more money makes you more generous. If you're selfish, more money makes you more selfish. That's why the first lesson of money is not about managing dollars, it's about managing yourself. I remember studying the life of Andrew Carnegie. He built an enormous fortune in steel, but the part of his story that impressed me most wasn't the empire he built. It was what he decided to do with it. Early on, he wrote that he would spend the first half of his life making money and the second half giving it all away. And he did. Libraries, universities, foundations. His money became a tool that lived far beyond him. That's the kind of perspective that changes how you see money. It's not something to be worshipped. It's something to be wielded for good. And let me tell you from experience, when you finally put money in its right place, you breathe easier. The pressure comes off. You stop seeing it as the end of everything, and you start seeing it as the servant of everything. You stop asking, how do I get more money? And you start asking, what can I build? What can I create? What can I contribute if I direct money wisely? That shift is everything. Because the day you make money your tool and not your master is the day you finally become free. So here's the challenge. Don't let money rule you. Don't let it dictate your choices, your values, your relationships. Put it in its place. Master yourself, then master money, and then use it as a tool to build a life of meaning, a life of contribution, a life that makes you proud to look back on. Because in the end, nobody remembers the dollars you stacked. They remember the life you lived and the legacy you left. Now, if money is the tool, then what's the goal? What are we really building with all these lessons, with all this discipline, with all this effort to grow and become more? The goal, my friends, is not just to pile up numbers in the bank. The goal is to live well. And when I say live well, I don't just mean a comfortable house or a fine car or a closet full of clothes, though there's nothing wrong with those things if they're part of your dream. Living well is deeper than that. Living well means crafting a life of balance, a life of health, a life of relationships, contribution, joy, and peace. It means using your money to support your values instead of sacrificing your values to chase money. It means designing each day so that it reflects not just what you earn, but who you are becoming. I remember telling audiences again and again, happiness is not something you postpone for the future. It's something you design in the present. Too many people live on the someday plan. Someday, when I've made enough money, then I'll travel. Someday, when the bills are paid, then I'll spend time with my family. Someday, when I'm secure, then I'll give, then I'll enjoy, then I'll live. But someday never comes because the habit of postponing is powerful. And the tragedy is people wake up at 60 or 70 with money in the bank but regret in their heart because they never learned the art of living well along the way. The truth is, you don't need millions to live richly. You need values, you need perspective, and you need the discipline to design a life worth living now, not later. I've traveled the world and I've met the wealthy in many countries. And let me tell you, some of them are miserable, surrounded by things but starved for joy. And I've met people of modest means who live like kings, not because of what they own, but because of how they live. They laugh often. They eat with friends. They give generously. They savor the little moments. They are rich, not in things, but in spirit. That's the true measure. Because living well is not a matter of wealth alone. It's a matter of using whatever wealth you have, whether small or great, to create a life that feels whole. So let me leave you with this picture. Life is like a table. For it to stand firm, it needs 4 legs. Money is one leg, yes, but only one. Health is another. Relationships are another. Contribution is the 4th. Knock out any one of those, and the table wobbles. Build them all together, and you have strength, stability, and balance. That's what it means to live well. That's the art. To have enough money to be free, enough health to enjoy it, enough relationships to share it, and enough contribution to know it mattered. So don't just chase money. Chase the good life. Design it piece by piece with the lessons we've talked about: philosophy, goals, sowing and reaping, self-education, discipline, associations, and yes, money used as a tool. Put them all together, and you'll discover the greatest wealth of all. A life lived fully, richly, and well. So here we are. After walking through these 7 lessons about money I wish I had known earlier, and I hope you felt the weight of them. Not as theories, not as clever sayings, but as living truths. Truths that have carried me from the embarrassment of not having $2 in my pocket to the privilege of living a life of abundance, contribution, and meaning. And what I want you to see is that every one of these lessons ties back to one central idea. Success is not something you pursue. It is something you attract by the person you become. Your philosophy shapes your income. Your goals give your money direction. The law of sowing and reaping guarantees that your choices, good or bad, will multiply and return. Working harder on yourself than on your job ensures you'll always outgrow your circumstances. Discipline keeps you on the narrow bridge that leads to accomplishment. Associations determine the standards you live by. And finally, remembering that money is a servant and not a master frees you to practice the true art of living well. Put these together, and you have not just a financial plan, you have a life plan. And maybe right now you feel that mixture of emotions. I once felt excited by possibility, but sobered by responsibility. Because you know these lessons are true, but you also know they demand something of you. They demand that you change. They demand that you grow. They demand that you stop wishing and start working. That you stop making excuses and start practicing discipline. That you stop listening to the crowd and start seeking counsel. That you stop drifting and start designing. And yes, that can feel heavy. But let me tell you, it's a good weight. It's the weight of discipline. And it's far lighter than the crushing tons of regret. Carry it now, and you'll thank yourself later. So let me leave you with this challenge. Don't just let these words wash over you and disappear. Don't just nod and say, that was good. Pick one lesson tonight and put it into practice tomorrow. Start small. Start where you are. But start. Write down your goals. Open a book. Save $5. Call someone wiser than you and ask for counsel. Replace 1 hour of television with 1 hour of study. Begin sowing the right seeds today. Because the harvest is always coming, and when it comes, it will reflect what you planted. And here's what I know. If you take these 7 lessons seriously, your life will not only change, it will multiply. Your finances will grow, your confidence will rise, your relationships will deepen, and your sense of meaning will expand. And then, when people look at you and ask, how did you do it? How did you turn it around? You'll smile and say, I learned some lessons early enough, and I chose discipline over regret. That will be your story, and it can start today. Now, if you've made it with me this far, let me open a door for you, because what we've covered here is just the beginning. In the next video, I'll share the single greatest decision that turned my entire life around, the decision that took all these lessons and multiplied their effect 100-fold. If you thought today's principles were powerful, wait until you see how one choice can set the whole wheel of fortune and happiness spinning in your favor. So click here, join me in that lesson, and let's continue the journey together, because the good life is waiting, and it's yours to design.